Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Heather Lockett with Lasting Conversations. We're on episode 123, which is so very exciting. And I'm so very excited to welcome back Gayle Walker. Hey, Gayle.
Hi, Heather.
Gayle is in a beautiful window where sun is coming through. Yay,
yes.
This is good. And you are in the Virginia, D.C. area. Is that right?
That is correct. Yep.
Beautiful. Well, and I thought you were going to get a storm up in New England in front of a window with a kind of a snowy, sleety day. So I am so appreciating the dabble of your sunlight. And I'm so happy that you're here today. And one of the things that's tickling me about the 123 is that you're here for people and processes and systems. So in an organized manner, your whole thing, you are a life doula, a coach, but you're so much more than that. You are a beautiful mentor for people. And we're talking today about a few things: what matters most and the art of care, among other things. So welcome. You were here with us a year ago, maybe just a little bit more than a year ago. And we talked about life doula and the birthing of something new and the shepherding, if you will, that you're such a beautiful soul to help people enjoy life and enjoy what matters most. And you began with moms and busy professionals. And if that was helping to take care of little ones, but taking care of their home so that they can take care of what matters most. And so welcome back, Gayle.
Yes, thank you. Ooh, you said all of that so beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you. Where would you like to start? Because in many ways, I'm going to do it this way, and it's going to be like a little interesting circle of life bow here. Because a year ago, you had your story, and you still have your beautiful story of how this began. You were military. You had many other careers and life experiences, and then you had your aha moment. And then even from a year ago of that story, the story has now blossomed into something more. So tell us about you, Gayle, and what it is that you're doing.
Yes. So, well, first I want to start with gratitude. So thank you so much for this 2.0 opportunity. Life Doula Inc. has changed a lot because I've changed a lot in this entrepreneurial journey. I think the place that I would like to start is the place that you mentioned around learning in this process and the discovery that I've come to by creating capacity in my own life. In the last episode, we talked about how I stepped out as an entrepreneur from the work that I was doing with families and the work that I was doing with busy professionals in their homes. And something that's happened recently is that I had an opportunity to do some work with a gentleman named Robert Hartwell. And I joined his program so that I could really go deeper around this journey that I was on. And really what I needed was language and story around what Life Doula was all about. And so recently I just did a showcase and it just ripped the cap off of Life Doula and expanded my work to be more of a human story, not just a story for families with small children.
Beautiful. And I watched that presentation that you did, and it's absolutely beautiful watching your expression expand, and that the voice, and I'll come to this too. This whole year for me as well has been an expansion of, well, what is the voice? What is the clarity? What am I? And I will now say we. What are we really here to say? And how can we then present that to others? And so your showcase, and you can mention it if you like on where people can find that presentation, because there was such a process and a practice. By that, then it became so natural. And so that you were able to be a Gayle in your fullest self on a stage where so many of us can feel kind of nervous, et cetera, but it came through so beautifully. And so this will also tie into where you come from. in that 1, 2, 3, the processing and creating some systems in how then anybody can sing in their own way. Their home can sing, their life can sing. So again, thank you for sharing your stage and in this timeline of this year that has been evolving and transitioning and being vulnerable enough to know something else is coming and something else needs to blossom. And maybe you took some pauses along the way with your business or personally to then do some other decluttering. So again, it sounds like a mishmash, but it's not. It all is just tied in so perfectly.
Yes. You brought up a whole lot. And so you're right. I did take a pause. So initially, I had been doing this work with families for several years, decided to take a leap in what I thought my agency would be, which was about caregiver placement. And I was kind of muddling along through that. And I'm like, this isn't exactly it. And as you know, my father passed away. And so I really had to take some time to grieve. And in that grieving period and creating space for myself, I was like, okay, what is Life Doula about? What am I experiencing and how do I move forward? And I said, what brings me joy? What is the thing that I truly enjoy the most? And it's decluttering. It's transforming spaces, helping people get uncluttered, getting rid of the stuff that's in the way and coaching people through that process. And so my pivot was around decluttering. But what I found out in doing the decluttering was that it's not just about the clutter, it's about what the clutter represents. And what I also found out was that my brand is a blend of decluttering, system management, and then finding your village. So finding the caregivers to support you, finding the people in your network to support you. And those are the 3 pieces of my framework. It's the property, the processes, and the people. And so in this space of discovery during the pause, I was able to put it all together. And now I'm like, okay, this is it. It makes sense.
I love so many things that you just said, including the uncluttering. We'll get to that in a second. But that you've added that 4th element, which is the pause. So maybe that's part of the 1, 2, 3 is like the 0.0 part, the part where that's very quiet. And we have to come to that stillness to understand what maybe the epiphany could be. So that you're adding that 4th element and more to the 1, 2, 3. I love it so much.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And here's the thing about pausing. So what you just said made me think about the pause that I took after I retired from the military. I took a 1.5 year sabbatical, and I planned and I did a lot of work to be able to do that. And initially I thought, okay, I'll take 3 months off. And then I decided to take 6 months off, and then a year, and then a 1.5 years. And in that period, I spent some time with a friend supporting her with her baby. And that's where Life Doula began. And so this conversation around pausing and creating capacity is a really big part. It's an underpinning of my business, but it's been an underpinning for how my business has grown. It started from a pause. It grew. It had an exponential boost or growth from a pause. And so thank you for pinning that, because that's coming together for me like in this moment.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. This is so.
I know. Like somebody write that down.
And all the things. So I just, all right. Oh, to try to create focus where, but this is what gives me such joy is this is what conversations to me are all about, that there can be this awakening, open moment, in where heart to heart and soul to soul can just speak and sing, that then we go, oh yeah, I hadn't considered that, and I hadn't considered that, and thank you so much. Because so thank you, because while you were now expressing, I was thinking, oh my, kind of no accident that where I am in a hotel once again right now, before I'm re-landing in the home, and we're going to get to the home in a second, is that there will be a whole conference with a bunch of military people. And I'm just down the street from, professional police people. So that what you were just saying, that I would then say, we could get to that as a beautiful add-on, is a voice for military, and perhaps during their service and or certainly afterwards, where it becomes the now what, that we can now also talk about, that a beautiful voice such as yourself that could offer, it's okay to take a pause to refill your own cup. So we can go there in this moment, or hold off for a second, because I think what's happening is that it's just so fruitful, and what can birth from a beautiful conversation like we're having. So I'm just having so much fun right now.
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
Yeah.
Like my brain is like, we could talk about this. We could talk about this.
Yeah.
But yes, the pausing piece is so essential.
Right.
The creating space, and then the work that I do is helping people create capacity so they have some breathing room, for sure.
And I think that's very keen. And whether you are a mom or a busy professional, people out of the military, whatever your life is right now. And I will add that in this timeline right now, it's a very powerful and in many ways disconcerting time, that so many are feeling, okay, something's got to change. I don't know what it is. Some people are feeling a bit of panic about that, but where you and I are coming from is have that deep well, have that space of nothing and no thing. And I will say, you and I met with that beautiful earth angel, I'll call him, Nick Askew, where his voice and vision really is how we can all be in that sense of stillness. And from there, then life can reframe, and we can have our own spaces to know what's next. But from really no thing. And absolutely. I think in this moment, as you and I are in our chairs here, I'm seeing it as a flower. So there's lots of bloom and blossom from that space of a bud, if you will.
Absolutely. Yes. The experience with Nick was so amazing. I mean, it was also an additional and another pivotal part of the growth in the business, is the taking the time to do the grieving, and taking the time to really figure out what was most important to me, and what filled me up, and where did I get joy, and really understanding what brings me joy was returned to the business. When I got connected with that, the path just began to open up for me. And I did more work. I got back to work after the period of grieving, and it became clear, like, yes, this is the way. Right. And the previous work with caregiver placement, that's a part of this too. But it's not the forward-facing part of the business. It's a layer of the business. So it starts with getting uncluttered, and then you can get the helping hands. And so it's just been a beautiful experience discovering that.
So from adding on to the first episode, and it all ties into what you were just saying, which is now the uncluttering of and digging into what's more and what's next. So on your talk on the stage, and you were talking about the art of care. And so to unclutter and the what matters most, and they're very tangential. So share more from those spaces.
Sure.
Yeah.
So One of the things that I was trying to figure out, especially as I was doing caregiver placement, was there's such a gap between clients or people who need help and the people who are providing the service. And as I spend more time in this industry, one of the things that was an epiphany for me as I prepared for the showcase is that oftentimes we reduce care to being a transaction. And when it's a transaction, it's very technical. It's very, it's technical. And when it's technical, it's transactional. You know, kind of the do this, do that, not here, not there. That kind of like, how do I describe it? Um, it just lacks,
A
it's just
certain
very
texture.
transactional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it lack a
Yeah.
certain texture? It
Lack of texture,
yeah.
lack of compassion, lack of
Yeah.
empathy. And what I discovered is when I compared that to how I care and how other great caregivers love and give to others, it is more transformational because it's in that giving. There's an exchange of something you just cannot explain except by saying it's loving, it's kind, it's an experience, it's unexplainable. And what I realized and what came up for me was that when care is given from a place of love and abundance, where it's allowed to flow and it doesn't have to be directed because the needs are met, it's transformational. And when I think about my experiences with my friend who I supported, and when I think about the care that I gave to my families, it was transformational. And I didn't understand why, because initially I was like, well, I'm just emptying the dishwasher. I'm just doing the laundry. I'm just picking up the kids. But something was happening for all of us, not just for the kids, not just for my clients, but for me also. And so it came full circle when I began to realize is that care is an art. And when you're in a space of artistry and in a space of love, there's a lot of, and I don't want to sound woo woo, but there's a lot of magic in those spaces. Yeah. And it is just incredible. It is so incredible. And so I finally have now been able to put words around what these experiences have been like for me, and for my families.
That's beautiful. And it does come almost that wordless space, but yes. A word that came up for me, it's translational. So instead of transactional, which there might be a transaction of put dishes in the sink or there's a currency exchange, whatever it is, but the essence of what you're sharing is like the translation of that kind of that hum, that essence. And where maybe it's that each one reach one and it just becomes that reverberation. So what feels right in terms of how this is now manifesting for your clients? And you had mentioned, client has said, I want a house that sings to me. This also goes into something that you have said in terms of that asking for help and receiving help while you're standing.
Yes.
That landed so well when when that came through in your speech of many of us will wait until we're lying down or something is, we could have been known and shown to ask for help and create these communities who are supportive and uplifting while we're still standing. So share more about that, because that's just beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that gives me goosebumps. And that was some of the heart and soul of my showcase that I was surprised by. That we as humans, we're meant to care and care for one another. And we have gotten so busy, so cluttered, so consumed that the only time we get care is when we're flat on our back. Whether we're birthing, whether, we are sick or in pain, that's when the flag goes up, help. But at that point, we're below surface level and we get enough care to get us, hopefully get us back on our feet. But what occurred to me and the brilliance of the whole process that I went through on Strength on Stages was that the work that I was doing in homes was helping people while they were on their feet for life in the middle. And what also occurred to me is that if you, in your heart, you have to know that there's something beautiful and brilliant in you. You have to know that in order to bring that forward, for that to be released and come forward out of you, you have to do it from a place of capacity. You can't do it from a place of deficit. Mm-hmm. And what was clear to me was that the clients that I was serving, the clients that had the network, the support, and the care, they were able to be their most brilliant selves. They were able to do well in their careers. They had the capacity to be great partners to their spouses, and they had the capacity to be loving, nurturing, patient, loving parents to their children. Like the ripple effect was tremendous. And so, my message now moving forward is that to get care while you're on your feet, to not wait until you're flat on your back. Get it now while you're on your feet, because that most brilliant thing in you, your most brilliant life is on the other side of transformational care. And I'm like, that is a message for me too. For sure. And so that's how Life Doula is moving forward.
Because it's a continual birth process. And yes. And I'm hearing and absorbing and receiving what you're gifting as well. Because I think, and perhaps for me, I'll say, not only child, but I was the elder of and the caregiver and the overgiver. And I'm still a fixer in recovery. And so where to receive, right? The fixer in recovery, to find that balance of, I get to receive and ask, and I get to create and curate. I think you use that word
I love curate.
To curate our homes, our communities, what we're feeding ourselves with in all ways, in all spaces. And that's where this whole uncluttering, to clear out so many cobwebs, and it can be energetic and physical, et cetera, to then, while some people, yes, you have your come to Jesus moment while you're on the ground. And I'll say for me, but so many of us have those moments, and we have to have the 2x4. But what you're saying, what's coming through is, how about beforehand? How about we get to have that brilliance and let things, somehow I'm seeing polishing silver. The silver's still there, but we have to kind of ask the genie, what do you need? What do you need in this moment to have that brilliance come out? And so to curate, to cultivate, and while we're standing, and that life in the middle. Let's go there for a moment about life in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So life in the middle. So my business is called Life Doula.
Yeah.
And, the space where I play is really big. We have doulas for birthing. We have doulas for the postpartum period, which is 3 months after, the family and baby are home. And then there are end of life doulas and death doulas. And then there's this whole big chunk, most of it is the life in the middle. And that's where I play. That's the place where I want to engage and have fun and challenge and, using your words, cultivate this new way of being in this life that we have to live. And so I'm challenging people to, okay, let's get uncluttered. Let's get uncluttered. Let's create some space. Let's create the capacity to do the amazing things that we're meant to do, starting with care for ourselves, care for the other folks in our home, whether that's a partner, a parent, a child, creating systems that support the rhythms, that support our values. And then from there, using that as our landing, our launch pad for how we show up in our jobs, or how we show up in our relationships with our friends and our community. That's my challenge, but it starts, with us, with our own life. And so I had to take my own challenge and I had to ask, like, where are you cluttered? I'm constantly decluttering in my own home. But the other piece is, how do I let others care for me? How do I ask for the care, the love, and the support that I need? Like you, I'm the oldest of three. I'm the one that's responsible for everyone else. But I had to ask myself, and this came up in our experience with Nick at the interview, is how do I get the care that I've delivered to so many others? I need that care too. And so for the last year, I've been spending time getting that care. And part of it, I realized that I needed care and support for my business. And so I stepped into the spotlight and allowed the Strength on Stages team to support me and challenge me in the way that I support and challenge others. And the results were amazing. So talk about full circle moment.
Absolutely. And all of it is just so beautiful. And I love that. Where do I need to receive the very care that I have given others?
Yes.
This is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge for us, fixers and people pleasers, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk some tangibles here. Because something else you just touched on is, and I'm going to paraphrase, but you'll continue, the notion of, as you say you want, let's have a process to that. Let's get to that. You had mentioned when we talked earlier, if somebody says, well, gosh, we never even sit down at the table, I want to have a Cindy dinner. Well, what are your action steps to make that happen? Do you have a clear pathway? Maybe somebody's kitchen literally doesn't have space or food in the fridge, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go there for a second in terms of the processes that you can help people simplify and make it doable and actionable.
I was hoping we would get to this because one of the other pieces in my framework is not just around the property or getting organized, and not just around the people and the connections. It's the systems. It's the systems and the rhythms that keep it all moving and in order. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways, or one of the practical tips that I offer to my families when I'm doing my consultations is, first and foremost, what are your values? What is the thing that is most important to you, what matters most? And for some people, it's, I want family time. And so then the next question is, well, how is that value experienced on a day-to-day basis? Mm-hmm. How is your espoused value a lived value? Kind of like when I ask, I'll ask people, who is the person or who are the people that were most instrumental or influential in your life? And then I'll ask, do you have a photo? Do you have something that represents that person so that they're a lived experience? They're a part of your lived experience every day. Mm-hmm. And so, if someone wants to have Sunday dinner because that was a really lovely, wonderful memory in their life growing up. And that's something that they want to continue and create for their family or in their home with their friends. Then the question begins, how do I make this a lived experience, not just an idea? And so you have a dining room table where you want to have this experience. How is this set up for you to create these memories? If the dining room table becomes the landing zone where everybody throws their stuff when they come into the house, it's going to be a lot harder to create that memory. So I help people think about, first and foremost, what are your values and what are the lived experiences that you want to have? And then we work in that gap.
Which is beautiful. And everybody's experience might be something a bit different. It could
Absolutely.
be, in this season right now, it may or may not include the dining room table, let's say, or somebody. But the point being is, as we say, we were wishing, let's make it so. And absolutely. I love that this is the doula-ing, the birthing for and through people to get to that, right?
Yeah.
And again, that home that sings, or I mentioned to you when we talked earlier, something that I wrote down years ago as my own house had become really cluttered. And it got so cluttered. And there was a beautiful woman that helped me, and Kathy Andio, when she was on the show a long time ago, that I could recognize, oh, well, there's a whole marriage. There are people that had to go. That was cluttering me. That was cluttering the house. And so the work can get very, very deep. And I think people can feel afraid, or people hold on to literal things because they're afraid of that letting go process, or what will unfold. Right.
Absolutely.
And so somehow I'm going to tie that right back into, I made a note that years ago, I think it was Nate Berkus, who had said, if you can create a home that rises up to greet you. So we're going to get into joy and the very purposeful tool to go through our tangible items to say, well, does this bring me joy? And if it doesn't, then, sometimes maybe it'll bring joy later, but what doesn't have to come forward? But does the home itself, do you walk in your door and feel comfort and cheerful, and that you can now take off all of your social masks if you've put them on and just go, oh, okay, I can sink into this right now. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So the joy factor. So I love Marie Kondo. I've been through her certification program, and I use it in my work with clients and in my 5-step prep guide, asking that question as you're decluttering, does it bring me joy? And really holding on to a thing, like holding it, feeling it. Is this still working for me? Does it still bring me joy?
Right.
And the context of that also is, does it align with my values?
Yep.
And is it in alignment with my vision? So asking those questions. So it's not just about, does it bring me joy? There's a greater context around, does it align with my values, and does it align with the vision, the forecasting that I see for my life? And when you can frame this declutter experience around those two things, it really helps you get to the answer, whether you should keep an item or not.
Absolutely. And I'm smiling so much because I had this, the practical came as my life shifted from, I'm going to set up a new house right away, into, no, you're going to leave here. You're going to leave your area and go travel. But the notion of where I had downsized already from 2,000 square feet, I had already done deep cuts, if you will, and had a storage unit. But it was a very interesting time from a space that I had rented that was fully furnished how much more stuff that I had acquired, right? But there had been new pieces of clothing, or there had been some things that I took out of storage to make it my own home, et cetera, et cetera. But to what you were just saying, does this represent who I am now? Is this who I am now? Because even a piece of clothing that has been well worn and loved, maybe it fits or maybe it doesn't fit because it doesn't fit where I'm going, like you're just saying.
Yeah.
Is this coming to me later? Am I taking this with me when I land? And there was so much, oh, no, that served its purpose. It's been well loved, and now let's move it on. Right.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's turn, or maybe it's trash or whatever it is. But there was so much that certainly it wasn't going back into storage, and it wasn't coming with me, to your very point, because it was no longer in service to who I am now, and certainly not where where we all can imagine where we're headed in our 2.0 or our 3.0. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And what I love about what you just said is what came to me was you were doing an active pause in between your homes, in between your downsizing, and then figuring out where you're going next. You were in this pause period, this suspended space. But it was an active pause, asking these questions. I love that. Between the values and the vision, you were in this active pause period, that 0.0 space.
I'm going to let that land for a second.
I know, right?
Oh, Gayle. Okay. Thank you we get to birth, duel it out. Between the spaces, the active pause. So if you want to say that again, let's flourish with that some more. It's very fruitful.
Yeah.
And meaningful.
Absolutely. So it makes me think about this book called Transitions. And I can't think of the gentleman's first name, but his last name is Bridges.
Perfect. In the bridge, bridge between, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And he talks about, and it's an analogy for making leaps. But when you think about, the people who do the trapeze, there's this period of time where they've let go of one bar. And as they reach toward the next, that they are suspended. They're suspended, but they've let go and they're reaching out. There's something about that space. There's something about that space. And the word that's coming up is faith. There's something about hope and faith and gratitude, thankful for what I've received and what I have, but looking forward to and anticipating what I don't even know. And so that comes up for me too, as we're talking about this active pause, this suspended space, this opportunity in the present moment.
Yes. And wow. So the active pause, because, I think we're also used to going and doing that, to be still and in a quiet moment where you think, well, that's lazy and that's unproductive. And that, oh my gosh, so much is happening, right? Mm-hmm. Think of it of an infant. You wouldn't tell an infant they're not doing anything because they're growing and learning exponentially while they're sleeping. So the pauses are very active and so very important. And then we're talking leap and the net will appear, right?
Yes.
As that faith. And as we've set up, hopefully we have set up some systems in place to be able to have that faith that will be caught or that we are supported. Mm-hmm. Now that kind of ties right back into where you offer support. The lasting conversations, that's my goal, is to be that soft place to land. Thank you. I'm somehow bringing up some tears that it's a way for people to know that they just take that leap and you are supported. Yes. And there are other people and you're not crazy. And, life is shaking the very foundations of so much. But here is where you can come and find resources to know that you're okay. And that, Gayle and her community, lasting conversations in my community, and the things that are happening here are meant to remind people's hearts that it's okay and it's safe to be open and vulnerable, and know to ask for help and to receive that very care.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And in that time, that in between time that you were bringing forward, right? Because this is what people are afraid of, that very letting go time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yes. So my greatest joy is to be your supporting cast. Like, I am I'm going to brag a little, but
good.
If you need a wing woman, I'm your girl. Right. Like, I'm a backstage girl. I'm a wing woman. I'm a cheerleader. That's what I love to do. And my greatest joy is helping people with their biggest challenges, primarily in their homes. And I truly, 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 truly love what I do. Yeah. The bigger the clutter challenge, the better. Because I know that if we tackle your biggest cluttered mess, it is going to unlock and unleash so many wonderful things, so many wonderful opportunities. And I just love seeing that transformation. I love seeing what happens when a client gets uncluttered, or when together we find the right caregiver for their home, or when we figure out systems and processes that make life easier. I love doing this work.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love that you do get to brag. We get to brag on ourselves to say, yes, I'm really good at this and I can help you, that we all have gifts. And yes, for the areas that I'm not so great at, thank you for the help. And so you get to shine your brightest light on your gift. And again, I think so many of us have I'll say cheerleader. Like I'm a great cheerleader. And also we get to be in the spotlight. So that goes back to your stage presence, or being out in public like this, to say, hey, we too get to shine. This is our sparkle. And this is where I can now help you remember your sparkle. The sparkle's always there. But let's clear it forward. Let's clear it up to bring in color, to bring in life, to bring in joy. And come what may, let the sparkle and let that effervescence, and to allow the joy and the fun and the play. Because maybe going back to the household, you're trying to raise kids, and if it's also like this or filled up, who has time to breathe, or who has time to play if you haven't created the space to do that? Absolutely. Yeah. Gayle, is there any more nugget? We have covered so many things.
I know.
And I will, just sort of ding back to military and other folks. Just know that you get to do something completely different. And I think so many people, maybe with job losses or just this reimagining of so much stuff, it's okay. Take your moment and reach out for help. Right?
Absolutely.
And what else would you might want to leave us with before we'll get to all the particulars of where to find you?
Yeah. So I would just highlight what you just said is to pause and get help. Pause and get help while you're on your feet. You don't have to be sick to be cared for. You don't have to be hospitalized to be cared for. And I would argue you need care and support before you are ill. You need care and support while you're living. You need care and support to find and discover that most brilliant, wonderful thing that you were made to do. And so that's what I would hope that anyone listening would leave with, is that your most brilliant self is on the other side of transformational care.
Gayle Walker.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I love this beautiful in the chair moment that we get to share here.
I know.
Where can people find you?
Yes. Yeah. So I can be found at my website, My Life Doula, mylifedoula.com. And that's where you can find me. I'm also on most of the social media sites at My Life Doula. You can find me there. And it's really easy to get in touch with me through my website, or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn. But the best place to start is mylifedoula.com.
Beautiful. And we're going to put all of that information in the show notes. And so for people listening, don't forget that we're recording on YouTube video. So for visual people, we're on YouTube, and for listeners, we're on all the different platforms. Thanks again, Gayle.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to say thank you for being my cheerleader. I need a cheerleader too. So thank you so much.
Yay. Oh, thank you. And it's mutual. It is so mutual. And thanks for listening, everybody. This is Lasting Conversations with Heather Lockett. Please do like, review, and share this message and all the others, because we are here to be that soft place to land in a sea of loud and continue the ripple effect of peace, love, harmony, joy. Thanks a lot. Take care.